my name is Saran Mutang Tagal, and I am from Sarawak. Right, nice to meet all of you. Two things that you should know about me today, which is related to my talk. Fact number one, I have a 9-to-5 job. I work in an international humanitarian organization, working in the protection for refugees and asylum seekers. Fact number two, I co-founded a DIY creative business, which is completely unrelated to my job. I work on this on my weeknights and on my weekends. I call this my side hustle. Now, I'd like all of you to think about this statement. Do you agree with this? Are you seeking for meaning and purpose? Right? Are you yearning to do something different, but you don't actually know what you want to do? Right? Meaning and purpose are such big words that it can be quite difficult to understand it on a more personal level. Now, if this is the case, don't worry. There is a method that could help you in finding that meaning and purpose. And I would like to call that method, soft tapping your inner passions, okay? Now, it's not knocking, all right? It's tapping. Knocking, on the other hand, has that end goal for the door to be open. So your knocking has to be loud. Tapping, on the other hand, is a fairly light brush. And so it's just like testing the waters, you know? So if you were to start tapping and exploring things that you've never done, who knows that maybe that seed of talent at the back of your mind could truly blossom if given the chance to. And know that with soft tapping, your inner passions, you'll be able to nurture these skills. You spend some time outside your regular commitments of your work or your university studies and nurture any unexplored skills buried within yourself. And know that there's never going to be a right time to start. And so, start tapping and let your creativity grow. Of course, there are challenges to this. And I'd like to say there are 3 challenges. One is time, the second is self-doubt, and the comparison trap. Now, with time, we don't always have enough time, right? We are not able to find time to explore our passions because we're just so busy, right? And have you heard of this phrase, jack of all trades, but master of none? You know, I grew up being told that I should never be a jack of all trades, but to be a master at something, because we have been so conditioned to know that if you are a master at something or the best at something, then you have a likelier chance of success. Yet, when I became a lawyer and I decided to specialize in employment law, because I enjoyed it, people told me that you're making a big mistake. Why would you specialize so early on in your legal career? And you're just going to be narrowing your options later on. And so this got me thinking, hey, maybe that phrase, jack of all trades but master of none, is not such a bad thing. Of course, the second challenge would be self-doubt. Now, let me explain. Have you had your successes or the lack of it ever been judged by someone else? I did not know that by default of originating from Sarawak. Any Sarawakans here? See, not many? Okay. I didn't know that by coming from Sarawak, I would have had less opportunities to thrive in life. And I'm going to explain a little bit more why. Now, the first reason is this. I come from a small town called Miri, Sarawak. Any Mirians? Okay, I come from a small town, Miri. And so when I went to Kuala Lumpur to study for my college, and people didn't know where I was from, they would ask me, so, do you still live on trees? And I'm like, huh? Do you still live on trees? I'm like, no, I don't. It's because they don't know what Sarawak looks like, and so they assume that we live on trees. And these were people who were going to be lawyers, and they asked me these questions. Okay, the second reason would be I did not have access to a lot of things that many people had in their high schools. For example, I did not have access to a lot of activity clubs. We didn't have a lot of variety. We also did not have a lot of educational tours. We also did not have a lot of competitions. Now, the third thing, which really impacted me, would be that I was categorized as a done line group, okay? And in English, this means and others, right? Which meant that in every government form or official form or with the bank, I'll have to tick into this box, done line, which meant that I was going to be grouped with more than 20 other native Sarawakian tribes, other Sabahan tribes, as well as others from Peninsular Malaysia, okay? For a country that boasts about its multicultural races that had tied its roots to Sarawak's land were neither seen nor even heard of, right? And so that felt, it gives you some self-doubt about that, all right? Now, just a little bit of my heritage. I am Lun Bawang from my father's side. Any Lun Bawangs in the house? Okay, I guess I'm the only one. Right? And my mother is Chinese. Now, the Lun Bawang tribe are a very small minority tribe from Sarawak. And there's not many of us, as you can see. So at least you can walk away knowing that you know one Lun Bawang person, me. Okay? Now, the Lun Bawangs are also grouped under a term called the Orang Ulu. This actually means people from the interior. But of course, it loosely translates as backward people. And so people have come up to me saying, oh, backward people, right? Maybe this is the reason why Sarawakans are still asked, do you still live on trees? Now, my father grew up in the highlands of Baklalan in Sarawak. That's where the Lun Bawang tribe lives. When he had to go to school, he would have to walk 1 week just to get to school, which means that he had to walk through these paddy fields from village to village, through mountains, through valleys, through rivers, just to get an education. Getting an education was literally tough for my dad. It would take him at least 1 week just to get to school. All right? Now, when I grew up in Sarawak, I did not feel this issue of having self-doubt. I only felt this more when I left Sarawak. My father's difficulties in being able to obtain an education just gave me that privilege to be able to have options later in life. Now, the third challenge would be the comparison trap. Dissatisfaction begins when there is comparison. And studies show that this is a very typical human response. Okay? I studied a subject that every Asian parent loved, law. And as you can see, my parents are excited up there. They look quite happy. And I continued on to work in a big and reputable law firm in Kuala Lumpur. Yet, everyone else's CVs still looked much better than mine. I was neither the best law student, nor was I the best lawyer as well. And so I started feeling more disillusioned as a lawyer. And this was actually when I started to tap into my inner passions a little bit more aggressively. And so during my weekends when I was exhausted from work, I would start to attend more craft and art markets. I'll go to suppliers and vendors and make friends with them. I gained more inspiration. I started to design my own jewelry, like my necklace here. I started to hone my leathercraft skills, and I started to do a lot more things. Okay? Studies show that we spend a majority of our lives working, and yet so many people do not find their meaning or purpose in it. So, I'd like for you to think about that statement I asked you in the beginning. Do you seek for meaning and purpose? Now, day after day, as I toiled as a less passionate lawyer, I started to wonder, is this going to be my life from now on? And so I quit. I quit my life as a lawyer. That was still one of the hardest decisions to make at that time. The reason was because I had tied my identity as a lawyer through my studies and through my work. That leaving my job as a lawyer and losing my identity made me feel insecure. I was afraid because I did not know what I was going to be doing after. But by breaking out, I was able to find a more fulfilling and more purposeful job in which I was able to work in an international humanitarian organization, and I get to be able to work in the protection of asylum seekers and refugees. And I'm still there, 5 years on. But this was also the same time when I started to turn all of that tapping into something more concrete, my side hustle. So, what is side hustling? Well, I like this definition from Chris. He is the author of Side Hustle. He says that a side hustle is not a part-time job. A side hustle is not a gig economy. A side hustle is an asset that works for you. So my side hustle resonates with me because it's an asset that works for me. I enjoy it and I love doing it. But why would I side hustle when I've already got a cool job doing humanitarian work? Why would I do that? Well, first of all, I was itching to do something completely different. I wanted to find an outlet that worked for me also. But at the same time, I'm not going to hide the fact that I wanted to earn a little bit more pocket money. With rising costs of living in Malaysia and wages not increasing in line with economy trends and inflation rates, I had to find ways to be able to fund my living of living in Kuala Lumpur. And so that is why I started my side hustle. But what did I actually do? Well, we created and started off with cool DIY jewelry kits. From this, for you to make into that. All right? I wanted to share the joy that, hey, you can do it yourself too. Be your own designer. Create something with your own hands. That was what my side hustle was all about. And we have been incredibly blessed over the years. When we first started out in markets in 2015, news about what we were doing gained traction and really fast. And that's the power of today's social media. Soon, we were being called for interviews with radio stations, with magazines, photo shoots, and we were even on the MTV show. And that was so cool because I grew up watching the MTV show. Yep. Right. But who would have known that this side hustle that I had done over the years would become what it is today if I did not start with soft tapping my inner passions? So, how can you start side hustling? And I'm going to give you 4 tips on how to do that. Tip number 1, vision your future. Okay, now this is really important. All of you here are university students. It's for very practical reasons. In Malaysia's economy, sometimes it doesn't expand as fast as the number of thousands of local graduates graduating from university and into the labor market. There are more graduates than there are jobs to supply them, right? Accept that your intellect is not everything. Understand that your definition of success is not solely measured by your good grades, okay? So, envision your future because it's very important. Tip 2, set realistic goals, okay? So, at the end of the year, my mother locks the whole family up in a room. Like, she locks all of us up. And then she makes us list all of these goals that we did for that year and what we want to do for next year. Now, as you can see from the photo, it's a whole list of goals, right to the bottom. It's like almost 10 areas. At first, I really did not enjoy doing these things because I did not know what I wanted to do. And if you don't know what you want to do, then how are you going to write about it? But I realized, eventually, after you envision your future, you work on setting goals. Goals are your ideas and your plans that are realistic to be achieved. It's a goal that you can work towards. The phrase, reach for the stars, but if you don't reach it, at least you can fly on the moon. This is an unrealistic goal, okay? So set realistic goals for yourself. Now, tip number 3, make time to try. When I was in university, I already started side hustling. I would create DIY jewelry, and I'll sell this to my friends so that I could earn a bit of money, because sometimes I was low on cash, all right? So if you enjoy crafting, if you enjoy designing or making the world a better place, try it, do it. University is the best time to explore your ideas, to identify your passions, and to sharpen your skills. Accept, value honest feedback from your friends and family. Your most candid critic is a side hustler's best friend. Now, of course, if things don't go the way you want it to be, and it might not happen, don't worry, just make this into a lesson. But at least make time to try. Now, the last tip I have for you is to enjoy the journey. Your side hustle could be completely different from your 9-to-5 job or from your university studies. However, it can complement whatever you do. Your side hustle is something that a business school will not be able to teach you because it cannot substitute the real experience of starting something on your own. In fact, I learned so many things of having a side hustle that my law school in the UK never taught me. A few things like confidence, to be able to pitch an idea within 30 seconds, or building a business from scratch without funding, or forging relationships with clients and suppliers, and lastly, being able to bounce back from multiple rejections. Now, of course, it's a very steep learning curve, sometimes working 7 days in a row, non-stop, especially during periods, busy periods. However, when I had a side hustle, you become your own boss, and that in itself is such an exciting adventure, all right? So try side hustling. You get to meet amazing people and amazing friends. You're able to tap into your inner passions. I've been so blessed to be able to be part of this creative community. I've enjoyed the support of friends, family, the local media, the local community. Over the years, I have been so privileged to be able to share that joy of DIY and to many people over the years. I've been super happy. And of course, I'm super thankful that what I do is something that I can really enjoy. You know, your passion and your enthusiasm for your side hustle will become its lifeblood. So, I'll say this to you, enjoy the journey of side hustling. And as they all say, you only live once. Thank you.